my mom told me to step out of the family photo. Years later, she saw my face on every storefront window in the city. It was December 2010, Christmas Eve, and the biting cold of Chicago seeped through the cracks of Grandma Margaret's old house. In the Pussy neighborhood, the smell of gingerbread and pumpkin pie filled the kitchen, mixed with that overly sweet perfume Aunt Susan always wore so much of. I was only 14, but I already carried the heavy weight of being the different one, the child who was never supposed to be born, as my own mother never missed a chance to remind me. My name is Emily. In that day, I still believed, deep down, that maybe I could win my family's love. What a foolish hope. I stood there dressed in my only decent navy blue dress bought on clearance at Target with the money I earned selling cookies at school, anxiously waiting for the Parker family's traditional Christmas photo. Grandma's living room was decorated with those cheap Christmas decorations from Walmart, but to me, it felt like the most magical place in the world. In the corner stood a small Christmas tree, covered in twinkling lights and shiny red and gold ornaments reflecting the warm yellow glow of the old lamp. The beige couch, faded with chimney, was covered with a crochet blanket Grandma had made years ago, back when her eyesight was still good. Everyone was there. Grandma Margaret in her floral dress with her white hair tied in a low bun. My mom Linda, as impeccable as ever in her hot pink suit and straightened hair. My dad Richard, sitting quietly in the corner in his once white butt, now slightly yellowed shirt. My older sister Ashley, 18, the princess of the family, wearing a brand new red dress that cost more than I imagined months selling cookies. And my little brother Ethan, 12, the golden boy who never did anything wrong in anyone's eyes. The photographer, Mr. Johnson, a short, kind man who had been taking pictures for families in the neighborhood for years, was setting everyone in place for the photo. It was a Parker family tradition, same pose, same lineup every Christmas. Grandma always in the center, her children by her side, and the grandchildren on the edges. I knew my spot always on the far right, kind of tucked away, but at least included. Oh, so I thought. All right, Parker family. Big smiles, everyone. Mr. Johnson called out as he adjusted the camera on the tripod. 3, 2, wait. My mother's voice sliced through their Nike blade. My heart sank. I knew that Tony. It was the same Tony she used whenever she was about to humiliate me in front of everyone, something that happened far more often than it should have. Every head turned toward her. My mom Linda stood up from her spot next to Grandma and walked straight toward me. Her heels clicked against the wooden floor sharp, cold, each step like a hammer against my chest. The silence in the room was suffocating. Even the cousins playing in the backyard seemed to sense what was coming and went quiet. Emily, step out of the picture. Her words came out sharp, cold. It wasn't a request. It was an order. No explanation, no excuse, no kindness. It felt like it'd been punched in the stomach. There left my lungs. For a moment, I didn't even process what I'd just heard. Everyone in the room seemed frozen. Grandma Margaret opened her mouth like she was about to say something, but then closed it and looked dull. My dad stayed silent like he always, pretending he hadn't heard a thing. Ashley shot me that smug little grin I knew so well, clearly enjoying every second. Ethan looked confused, but he knew better than to speak up. Mo, why? My voice came out barely above a whisper, weaker than I wanted. I could feel the sting of tears forming, but I fought them back. You owe Jean to give her the satisfaction of seeing me cry, because this is a family photo. A real family photo. She spat each word like poison. You Eliane just ruin it. Nike always. The silence that followed was deafening. I could feel every pair of eyes on me saw me awkward, saw me curious, saw me simply indifferent. Mr. Johnson fidgeted nervously with his camera, unsure what to do. My heartbeat pounded in my ears so loud it felt like the whole room could hear it. Nita, honey, Grandma finally murmured, her voice trembling. She's family too. No, Mo, my mother shot back, staring straight into my eyes. like I was some mistake she couldn't erase. Emily is a mistake I made 14 years ago. A mistake I have to carry every single day. Her words sliced through me like a knife. A mistake. That's what I was. Not a daughter. Not a person. A mistake. Something shattered inside me that moment. The 14-year-old Emily who still believed she could earn her mother's love died right there in that living room, decorated for Christmas, in front of everyone. But it was also the moment a new Emily was born, one who realized she would never be accepted in that family, but maybe, just maybe, one day, she could prove them all wrong. Come on, Emily, move. We want to take the picture, Ashley said, with that impatient tone she always used with me, like I was just some annoying burden. My face burned with shame and anger. I scanned the room, desperately searching for a shred of kindness, some glimpse of understanding, but all I found was silence and discomfort. Even Grandma Margaret, who'd always been my safe place, was staring at the floor, helpless. All right. My voice was firmer than I expected. Yaniele move. I walked slowly toward the door, each step feeling like I was sinking into the floor. I knew they were all watching me, but I didn't look back. Eu didn't let them see. The tears streaming down my face. I passed through the kitchen, where Aunt Susan was finishing setting the table for dinner. She didn't even look up. I stepped out into the freezing backyard and sat on the old swing at the far end, away from everything. From there I could hear the laughter, the conversations, the flashes from the camera, and Mr. Johnson's cheerful smile. The family was happy, complete, without me. I sat there for nearly an hour, listening to the sounds of a celebration I wasn't a part of. My navy blue dress, which I'd chosen so carefully, was now wrinkled and stained with dirt. And honestly, it didn't matter anymore. Nothing did. When I finally walked back inside, the photo had already been printed. Mr. Johnson always brought his instant printer. Everyone was gathered around admiring it. It was a beautiful picture, I had to admit. Everyone smiling, looking perfect, like the ideal family. I wasn't it. It was like I had never existed. Such a beautiful picture, Aunt Susan exclaimed with a grin. I'm going to ask for a copy to hang in my living room. Me too, Ashley said. I'm posting this on Facebook. Everyone is gonna see how perfect our family is. My mom held the photo in her hands with a satisfied smile on her face. It was the same look she had whenever she got something she really wanted. She was happy. Happy to have excluded me. Happy to have a photo of the real family without the daughter she considered a mistake. That night, lying on the thin mattress, on the floor of the bedroom I shared with Ashley, of course, she had the bed, I had the floor. I made a promise to myself. A promise that would change the course of my life forever. One day, I whispered into the dark, one day you'll see my face everywhere in the city. You'll regret treating me this way. It was an ambitious promise for a 14-year-old girl living in the rough side of Chicago, who sold cookies at school to buy her clothes, who slept on the floor. It was treated as a mistake by her own family, but it was a promise I intended to keep no matter what it took. In the days following Christmas, nothing changed at home. My mom kept treating me like a burden. My dad kept pretending it didn't exist. Ashley continued with her daily snide remarks. Even Ethan, slowly shaped by the family's toxic environment, started treating me with indifference too. The family photo was framed and placed in the living room in a place of honor. Every time I walked past it, my chest tightened. It was a constant reminder that it didn't belong there, that I was an intruder in my own family. But it was also a constant reminder of the promise I had made to myself. I started observing everything around me differently. I listened closely to the adults' conversations, their complaints about money, their endless talks about missed opportunities. I began to realize that my mother's bitterness wasn't only directed at me. She was angry at her own life, her own choices, the family's financial struggles. My dad, Richard, worked as a mechanic in a small auto shop in the neighborhood, making barely enough to scrape by. My mom cleaned houses 3 days a week and barely made ends meet. Ashley had finished high school but had no plans for college. She spent her days watching Transmissão Vertical or hanging out with friends. Ethan was still in middle school and was treated like a little prince, but deep down, I knew the family's finances wouldn't support his future either. I was the only one who truly saw it, who understood that if nothing changed, we were all doomed to repeat the same cycle of poverty and frustration. But I didn't want that life. I wanted more, so much more. School became my refuge. It was the only place where I could truly be myself, far from the judging eyes at home. I had always been a good student, but after that Christmas, I became exceptional. I studied like my life depended on it because it did. I spent hours in the school library, reading everything I could get my hands on: history, literature, science, math. I absorbed knowledge like a sponge. My teachers started noticing my effort and encouraged me. For the first time in my life, I felt like there were adults who actually believed in me. Mrs. Carter, my English teacher, was the first person to talk to me about college. "Emily, you've got what it takes to get into a good university," she told me one afternoon after grading an essay, the written one that had received the highest score in class. "Have you thought about applying for scholarships?" Scholarships? I barely had enough money for lunch, but the seed had been planted. I started researching, looking for grants, community programs, anything that could help someone like me get into college. That's how I discovered federal aid, need-based grants, scholarship programs. I learned about sorority técnico prep application, waivers, and how first-generation students could get into universities without a dime. At home, no one knew about my plans. I kept pretending to be the same old Emily, quiet, invisible, compliant. But inside, I was preparing for the biggest transformation of my life. I continued selling cookies at school, but now with a clear purpose: saving money to buy books and study materials. Every dollar I saved was a step closer to my goal. I started cleaning houses on weekends in neighborhoods far enough that no one from my family would ever find out. The money I earned went straight into an old tin can I hid behind the wardrobe. Little by little, I built my own mini library, used books from thrift stores, photocopied study guides, notebooks filled with notches I borrowed from classmates who could afford sorority técnico prep. My tiny corner in the bedroom I shared with Ashley became my own little study center. "What is all this crap?" Ashley asked one day, flipping through my books with a sneer. "School stuff," I replied quickly, grabbing everything back. "You study too much, Emily. It's pointless. Poor people stay poor. Stop dreaming so big." Her words meant to tear me down, only made me stronger. That was exactly the mindset I was determined to break. I was going to prove that yes, it was possible to escape poverty through hard-working education. The months flew by, and my determination only grew. Every insult at home, every look of disdain, every cruel comment became fuel for my fire. Had a crystal clear goal now: get out of that house, become independent, and show everyone they were wrong about me. In March 2011, I started my freshman year of high school. This was my chance to prepare for college the right way. I sat down with Mrs. Carter, and she helped me create a study schedule. 3 years of intense preparation, 3 years to change my life completely. "Emily, you have to believe in yourself," she told me one afternoon while helping me with some literature assignments. "You're smart, dedicated, and full of potential. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." Those words became my mantra. Every time someone at home called me useless, every time my mother reminded me I was a mistake, every time I felt like giving up, I repeated them in my head. The year flew by. I kept up my intense study routine, my side jobs, and the facade. At home pretending nothing had changed, but everything had. I had changed. Inside, I was no longer the broken girl who was kicked out of the family photo. I was a young woman with a fire e hustle e a plan. 2012 arrived with a different energy. I was now a sophomore, and my determination had become implacable. At 16, I carried a maturity on my shoulders that most kids my age didn't even comprehend. Every morning, I woke up at 5:30, before anyone else, to study for an hour before school. It was my sacred time when the house was quiet, and I could lose myself in the books without cruel comments or interruptions. The routine was tough but steady. School from 7 am till noon, quick lunch at home, study from 1 am till 5 p.m., side jobs from 5:30 p.m. till 8:30 p.m., dinner, then another 2 hours of studying before bed. Weekends were almost entirely dedicated to studying in the jobs that brought extra cash. My side hustle had expanded. Along with the cookies now famous at school, I started making cake jars to sell around the neighborhood. Turns out, I had a talent for baking, and it became a solid source of income. I also cleaned houses every Saturday, always in neighborhoods fat enough that no one from my family would see me. The money I saved was divided strategically. 60% went towards study materials and books, 30% went a savings fund I was building for college, and 10% for basic personal needs. Every penny was accounted for, with a specific purpose. I learned to manage money out of necessity, a skill that would become crucial for my future. At home, things stayed the same. Actually, they got worse. My mom, Lida, had lost one of her house cleaning jobs and had become even more bitter and irritable. She took out all her frustration on me, as if I were to blame for all the family's problems. Public humiliations became more frequent. At family gatherings, neighborhood parties, even church meetings, there was always some cruel remark directed at me. That one is not going anywhere in life, she'd say loudly for anyone who would listen. Spends all day with her nosy a book, but everyone knows poor folks do to become doctors. Ashley, now Veach, had landed a job as a retail clerk. Downtown A had become even more arrogant. She made minimum wage a little over that but acted like a top executive. She never missed a chance to put me though. At least I work and make my own money, she did say, showing off her new clothes. I'm not sitting around dreaming about impossible things like some people are. In 10, now 14 in the rough stages of adolescence, had fully absorbed the family's attitude toward me. He treated me with indifference at best, a outright disdain when trying to impress his friends. It broke my heart to watch my little brother, the same boy I had always tried to protect, become just one more person who rejected me. My dad, Richard, remained an absent figure. He worked long hours, came home exhausted, ate dinner silently in front of the transmission vertical, and went to bed. On weekends, he was either fixing something around the house or drinking beer with the neighbors. He rarely spoke to me when he did. It was only to ask for something or complain. But I had learned how to turn all that rejection into fuel. Every nasty comment, every look of contempt, every public humiliation became more motivation to study, to work, to push toward my goals. I built a thick skin on the outside, but inside, the dream of turning my life around stayed alive and burning. At school, my reputation as a top student was well established. Teachers respected me and constantly recommended me for academic competitions, writing contests, and knowledge Olympiads. I participated in math competitions, history bowls, essay contests. I didn't always win, but I was always among the best. Mrs. Carter, still my unofficial mentor, was the one who told me about free college prep programs. Emily, there are community programs that offer prep classes for low-income students. You should apply. I researched every possible option in Chicago. There was the University of Illinois Outreach Program, a nonprofit called Rise and Learn, and a community center offering free soro antitetânico prep in Pilsen. I applied to all of them. Competition was fierce. Hundreds of kids in the same situation as me, dreaming of changing their lives through education. I got into the University of Illinois prep program, Rise Learn. I chose the university program because the classes were held right on campus. Just being on that campus, breathing that university air, would motivate me even more. Plus, the teachers were graduate e postgraduate students, which meant a higher level of instruction. The prep course started in August 2012, 3 nights a week, from 7 p.m. till 10 p.m. To get there, I had to take the buses and spend nearly 2 hours commuting back and forth. The bus fare came from my side gigs. One more sacrifice I was happy to make. That first class was life-changing. Sitting in that lecture hall at the University of Illinois, surrounded by other young people who had the same dream I did, listening to professors who truly knew their stuff, each felt like I had discovered a whole new world. For the first time in my life, I felt part of something bigger, part of a group that believed in the power of education. No one at home knew about the prep class. I told them I was taking a vocational course downtown. Not that anyone cared much about where I was, as long as I stayed out of the way. The classes were intense: math, physics, chemistry, biology, history, geography, English, literature, sociology, philosophy. It was a ton of information to absorb, but I was starving for knowledge. I did get home around 11:30 p.m., exhausted, but always found the energy to review what I did learn and do the assigned work. My routine became even tougher. School in the morning, self-study in the afternoon, side jobs in the early evening, prep class at night, and more studying into the early hours. I slept barely 5 hours a night, but my body adjusted. It was like I was being powered by pure determination. And the results started to show. On the prep course mock exams, I consistently ranked in the top 10%. The teachers started to notice me and offer extra help. Mr. Johnson, the math teacher, would stay after class to answer my questions. MS. And the writing instructor lent me books and gave me crucial tips on how to craft a strong essay. Emily, you have incredible potential, Mr. Johnson told me one night after grading a practice test where I scored 95% in math. With your dedication, I have no doubt you will get into a top university. Those words were like medicine to my wounded soul. Finally, there were adults who believed in me, who saw my worth, who treated me with respect and kindness. It was exactly what I needed to keep going. At the end of 2012, I took my first soro antitetânico just for practice. I knew I still had a year to go, but I wanted to experience the real thing. I sat for both days of the test, nervous but excited, knowing I was finally putting all my studying to the test. The results came back in January 2013. I scored a 1,300, a very solid score for someone still in their junior year. But more important than the score itself was what it gave me: confidence, proof that I truly could compete with anyone. Then 2013 arrived, the pressure of senior year, the looming reality of the college admissions process. I pushed even harder. Now I was studying 6 hours a day during the week and 8 on weekends. I kept attending the prep course at the university and signed up for a free online soro antitetânico prep program they discovered. My senior class had 35 students. Out of those, only 5 planned to go to college. The rest were focused on finding jobs, a vocational trainee. I was the only one aiming for a top public university. It isolated me even more from my classmates, but I was used to that by now. The teachers knew about my ambitions and helped us much as they could. Mr. Roberts, my history teacher, always brought me newspaper clippings about current events that might show up on the exam. MS. Myers, my biology teacher, lent me advanced textbooks that weren't even part of the school curriculum. Their support, though limited, was a lifeline. At home, the tension had become unbearable. My dedication to studying was getting impossible to hide. I barely participated in any family activities anymore. I was always with a book in hand. The Little study corner I had sitiapi the bedroom was slowly taking over Mari space. This girl is going crazy, my mom would say to the neighbors. She is locked up in that room with those books. What does she think she is gonna become? A doctor. The mocking laughter that always followed her comment catch through me like a knife, but it also gave me even more determination. One day, I thought, that laughter would turn into admiration, or at the very least, respect. Ashley grew increasingly bothered by my determination. Deep though, I think she knew I was chasing something she had never had the courage to go after. Stop with this nonsense, Emily, she snapped one morning as I studied at the kitchen table. You're wasting your youth on these books. You should be dating, having fun, living your life. Everyone lives life their own way, I replied, without looking up from my textbook. Yeah, what do you think you're gonna get from this? Get into a top university, get rich. Don't be ridiculous. People like us don't go anywhere. Her words echoed in my mind for days. People like us don't go anywhere. That was exactly the mindset I wanted to destroy. That was exactly what I was fighting to prove wrong. In the final months of 2013, I pushed myself harder than ever. Weekly practice exams, constant content reviews, writing essays every single day. My routine was brutal, but I knew it had to be. I had one shot to change my life, and I wasn't going to waste it. In October, I registered for the soro antitetânico and applied to several colleges. I chose my major strategically, law at the University of Illinois, business at Chicago State, and psychology at Northeastern Illinois. Competitive programs, but ones that could give me the tools to build a solid, successful career. The application fees came from my side jobs, $60 $80 there. Each payment meant 2 weeks of strict saving, but each was an investment in my future. As the test dates approached, I felt a mix of anxiety and excitement. I knew I was prepared, more prepared than most. I had studied like a machine for 3 years. I had squeezed knowledge out of every possible source. I had turned every hardship into motivation, but I also knew the competition would be brutal. Thousands of students were fighting for the same expertise I was. Many of them had every advantage: expensive prep schools, private tutors, brand new materials, families who supported and invested in them. The difference was, they studied because they could. I studied because I had no other choice. In that difference, I would soon learn, made all the difference in the world. In November 2013, the moment of truth arrived. My first day of the soro antitetânico. I woke up at 6 a.m., took a freezing shower to snap myself awake, ate a sandwich that prepared the night before, and quickly reviewed the physics and chemistry formulas that always tripped me up. The test center was a private school in Lincoln Park, miles from home. It took 3 buses and almost 2 hours to get there. I arrived an hour early like I always did for important things. I scanned the other students, well-dressed kids stepping out of cars with their parents, carrying expensive materials, chatting casually about their test strategies. Me, I was there with my pencil, eraser, intradérmica, nothing more. But I carried with me 3 years of relentless preparation, 3 years of sacrifices, 3 years of dreams packed tightly into my chest. The test was intense. For a half hours of absolute focus, I felt like I was doing well, that everything I prepared for was paying off. The math section, my strong suit, flowed smoothly. The reading and writing demanded focus, but I was ready. The social sciences, my favorite, felt almost comforting. The topics were so familiar they felt like old friends. The second day brought the essay in the science sections. The essay prompt was about childhood advertising, a topic I had studied, with an opinion well formed. I wrote a solid, well-structured essay, with clear arguments and practical solutions. I walked out of the test exhausted, but confident. I knew I had given it everything. Now it was just a matter of waiting and hoping that 3 years of effort would be enough to change my life. December 2013 was nothing but pure anxiety. I kept my routine of side jobs and studying, but a part of my mind was always consumed by thoughts of my results. I constantly did mental math, trying to estimate what scores they need for the programs they applied to. At home, no one asked about the test. It was as if it had never happened. My family carried on as usual, showing zero interest in my plans or ambitions. It was frustrating but also freeing. I didn't need their approval to move forward. On January 13, 2014, the sorority tetânico results came out. My composite score was 1,480 an outstanding score, way above what I needed for every single program I had applied to. I was over the moon. It was proof that all the effort had paid off, that I truly could compete at the highest level. My essay score 7 out of 8 nearly perfect. A score that very few candidates ever achieved. I felt an overwhelming pride in myself. There I was, sitting alone in my room, silently celebrating an achievement no one in my family even understood mattered. With that score, I could choose any major I wanted at any public university in Illinois. But I had made a strategic decision. I was going to study law at the University of Illinois, a prestigious program, one that would give me the tools to build a solid career with a broad and well-paid job market. The list of accepted students was published at the end of January. In there it was my name, Emily Parker, admitted in 7th place for the law program at the University of Illinois, 7th place, out of more than 1,000 candidates. I was 7th. I printed the acceptance list at the corner print shop and walked home holding the paper like it was made of gold. It was physical proof that it did it, that it broken the cycle, that you wasn't a mistake, like my mother always said, but someone capable of great things. I got home at 6 p.m., right as everyone was sitting down for dinner. My parents, Ashley, and Ethan were all at the table. It was the perfect moment to deliver the news that would change everything. Guys, I have something to tell you, I said, my voice trembling with emotion and nerves. What is it now, Emily? My mom replied, with that same irritated tone she always used with me. I got into college. I am going to study law at the University of Illinois. The silence that followed was absolute. Chewing stopped. Everyone stared at me as if I had just spoken a foreign language. Ashley was the first to react, letting out a mocking laugh. Stop lying, Emily. Law at UAV? You didn't even take a real prep course. I placed the acceptance list on the table and pointed to my name. 7th place. Right there. See for yourself. My dad grabbed the paper, adjusting his glasses, reading carefully. His face shifted from skepticism to shock. It is true. Her name is right. Let me see that. My mom snatched the paper from his hands. She read it once, then again, as if she didn't believe what her eyes were seeing. What do you mean you got it? When did you apply? How did you even get the money for the application? I prepared for 3 years. I took prep courses, studied on my own, worked to save up for the application fees. I did everything by myself. 3 years. Ashley actually looked shocked. You've been preparing for 3 years and never said anything? There was no need to say anything. You've never cared about what I do anyway. My mom kept staring at the paper, as if it might disappear at any second. But, law, that is an expensive program. How are you going to pay for it? It is a public university, Mo. It is free. Free? Now it was my dad's turn to look surprised. And where is this university? Right in Chicago, downtown campus. The information slowly sank for everyone. I was there, the daughter who had always been treated like a mistake, the one who was excluded from the family photo, now announcing that I had earned a spot in one of the most competitive programs, at one of the best universities in the state. Wait. Ethan, who had been quiet until then, finally spoke. You gonna be a lawyer? Yes, I am. Whoa, my sister is gonna be a lawyer. For the first time in my life, I saw something that looked like admiration in my little brother's eyes. It was strange and new. My entire life, I had been the family disappointment. And now, Suddenly, I was a source of surprise, maybe even pride. But my messy reaction was different. Instead of pride or happiness, her face twisted into a mixture of surprise, discomfort, and something I only recognized as latir, fear. Fear that her daughter, the one she had always belittled and rejected, might actually become someone important. "Well, congratulations," she finally said, but there was no warmth in her voice. "Let us see if you can actually finish the program." Classic her. Even in the face of undeniable success, she still found a way to plant seeds of doubt. But this time, her words didn't touch me. I had the proof in my hands that I was capable of far more than she had ever imagined. That night, for the first time in 4 years, I truly slept peacefully. I had fulfilled the first part of the promise I'd made to myself under the old tree in Grandma Margaret's backyard. Now it was time for part 2, turning this opportunity into the biggest comeback of my life. My first day at the University of Illinois College of Law was March 10, 2014. I woke up at 6 a.m., as usual, but this time, it wasn't to study at home. It was to get ready for the first day of my new life. I took a long shower, put on my best outfit, a pair of black jeans and a simple white blouse I had bought just for this occasion, and looked at myself in the tiny bathroom mirror. Emily staring back at me wasn't the same girl who'd been kicked out of the family photo 4 years earlier. I was 18 now, taller, more confident, with a fire in my eyes that hadn't been there before. I was still poor. I still lived in the same rundown house. I still had to take 3 buses to get to the downtown campus. But now, I was a college student, a freshman law student at the University of Illinois. The downtown campus was even more impressive than I had imagined. Majestic old buildings, students of every kind moving through the house, prestigious professors, and a massive library filled with thousands of books. It was like stepping into a whole new world, a world where knowledge was valued, nurtured, and celebrated. The College of Law was housed in a century-old building with long hallways and giant classrooms with towering windows. The moment I walked into my first class, I felt a mix of excitement and nerves. There were 49 other students there who, like me, had secured one of the most competitive spots in the state. It didn't take long to realize I was different from most of them. The majority came from middle or upper class families. They had gone to private schools, had expensive tutors, parents who were lawyers, judges, prosecutors, business owners. They casually talked about study abroad programs, their cars, apartments in Lincoln Park. But I also realized something else. It didn't intimidate me anymore. I was there on my own merit. I had fought tooth and nail to get it. While they studied because everything was handed to them, I studied because I had no other option. That gave me a foundation and a level of determination most of them didn't begin to understand. For the first few weeks, I kept a low profile, observing, learning, adjusting to the academic environment. The classes were nothing like high school. Professors with PhDs, decades of experience, and intimidating resumes talked about complex concepts, legal theory, and philosophy of law. It was challenging, but exactly the kind of challenge I craved. And soon, my rigorous preparation started paying off. While many of my classmates were still adjusting to the workload, I was already used to putting in long hours, pushing myself beyond exhaustion to master difficult content. My first grade, a 95 introduction to law, the second highest the class. Professor Anthony Carter, a highly respected judge with more than 30 years on the bench, congratulated me in front of everyone. Ms. Emily Parker demonstrates an impressive understanding and an admirable ability to analyze legal concepts, he said in front of the whole class. This is exactly the level of dedication we hope to see in future jurists. It was the first time in my life I had received public recognition for my intelligence and dedication. The satisfaction was overwhelming, a validation that I was absolutely on the right path. But academic success was just the beginning. I knew I needed Mori real world experience, networking, opportunities to grow. E I needed money both to stay in school e to help out at home. That when I discovered the university's research assistant program, a $400,000 only stipend for students who excelled academically and contributed to research projects. It wasn't much, but for someone like me, it was huge. More important than the money, it was an opportunity to stand out academically and start building a strong resume. I applied for a research position in constitutional law under Dr. Marshall Lewis, a renowned scholar in civil rights and constitutional theory. The project focused on access to justice for low-income communities, analyzing the effectiveness of the public defender's office in Illinois. The topic hit close to home. I knew firsthand how hard it was for poor people to access their basic rights. I could contribute not only with academic knowledge but also with lived experience. The interview for the position was intense. Dr. Lewis asked about my motivation, my understanding of the topic, my availability for research. I spoke passionately about how the law could be a tool for social transformation, about my dream of using my education to help people who were in the same situation I had grown up in. Emily, you bring a unique perspective to this research, she said at the end of the interview. Your personal experience, combined with your academic performance, convinces me that you can contribute something truly valuable. I got the position. It was my first time earning money through knowledge. $400 a month, a small step toward financial independence, but a giant leap in building my future. The research assistant position opened my eyes to a world I didn't even know existed. I started attending conferences, seminars, and lectures. I met other researchers, professors from different universities, and renowned legal professionals. I began to understand how the high-level academic and professional world actually worked. At one of those events, I met Dr. Robert Matthews, a famous criminal defense attorney in Chicago, and a partner at one of the most prestigious law firms in the city. He was giving a lecture on constitutional guarantees in criminal proceedings. I raised a question about how some of the theories we were studying could be applied in real-world criminal cases. My question didn't just show depth, it impressed him because I managed to connect academic theory with social reality. After the lecture, Dr. Matthews approached me. What year are you in? He asked. Second semester, sir. Second semester, and he already asking questions like that. Impressive. Are you interested in criminal law? I am interested in law as a tool for social justice, sir. Criminal, constitutional, labor, any area where I can make a difference. I like that answer. Would you be interested in interning at my firm? I nearly fell off in my chair. Dr. Robert Matthews was offering me an internship at his firm, an opportunity most upperclassmen would kill for. Absolutely, sir. It would be an honor. Great. Reach out to my secretary next week. We'll start you part-time, 3 days a week. Will that fit with your class schedule? Perfectly, sir. I left that event walking on air. Less than a year into law school, I already had a research assistant position in internship at one of the most respected law firms in the city. Things were moving fast, and for the first time in my life, I felt fully in control of my future. The internship at Matthews Associates was transformational. The firm was a sleek office in the heart of downtown Chicago, with spacious conference rooms, a fully stocked legal library, efficient secretaries, and sharply dressed attorneys moving through the house. My initial tasks were simple: organizing case files, drafting basic motions, tracking court deadlines, but I constantly asked to do more, always volunteering to help with more complex assignments. I wanted to learn everything I could. Dr. Matthews quickly noticed my dedication and started giving me bigger responsibilities. He brought me to hearings, let me sit in on oral arguments. He explained the strategy behind every motion in brief. It was like having private lessons with one of the best lawyers in the city. Emily, you've got a natural talent for the law, he told me one afternoon after I drafted a response that he approved almost without changes. But more importantly, you've got hunger. Hunger to learn, to grow, to exceed expectations. That's rarer than you think. The internship paid me $600 a month. Combined with my research assistant stipend, I was making $1 a month more than my dad made working full-time as a mechanic. It was a strange but liberating feeling. To finally have financial independence. With that money, I invested in myself. I bought professional clothes, essential law books, and a second-hand laptop to help with my studies. I also started contributing to the household budget, a move that completely shifted the family dynamic. Suddenly, the daughter who had always been seen as a burden was now helping to pay the bills. The daughter who was once dismissed was now earning more than her father. The daughter who had been excluded from the family photo was becoming the most successful member of the family. The change in my family's attitude was gradual but undeniable. My mom, who had always treated me with contempt, began speaking to me in a slightly softer tone. Not affectionate but at least not openly hostile anymore. Ashley, who had always mocked me, grew quieter, perhaps realizing I was achieving things she never could. My dad, for the first 2 years, started asking questions about my life. How is school going, Emily? In the internship? Is it good? Short interactions but massive progress in our relationship. Ethan, now 16, changed the most. He started asking me questions about college, about law, about my future plans. I realized I was becoming a role model for him, proof that it was possible to break free from our circumstances through education and determination. Emily, do you think I could go to a college tour? He asked me one night while I studied at the kitchen table. Of course you can, Ethan. You're smart. You just have to be disciplined and work hard. Will you help me study? It was almost ironic. The brother who ignored me for years was now asking for my help. But it didn't hold a grudge. In fact, it made me happy to be a positive influence in his life. I started mentoring Ethan, teaching him the techniques he learned, encouraging him to dream big. I saw in him the potential that no one had ever seen in me. Maybe I could help him avoid some of the pain I had endured. By my second year of law school, my academic reputation was rock solid. I maintained a GPA above 39, participated in every extracurricular I could, presented papers at conferences, published articles in academic journals. My professors recognized me as one of the best students in the program. But I wanted more. I wanted international experience. I wanted to expand my horizons. I wanted to compete at a global level. That's when I applied for an academic exchange program with the University of Coimbra in Portugal. The selection process was brutal. Resume evaluation, written exams, interviews. In both English and Portuguese. Only 2 law students from the University of Illinois would be selected for the program. The competition included students from all academic years, men from wealthy families with far more resources than I had. I prepared obsessively for 2 months. I studied the history of Portuguese law, comparative legal systems, or find my English. I read everything I could find about the University of Coimbra and its law program. The final interview was with a panel of 5 professors. They asked about my motivation, my academic goals, and how the exchange would contribute to my education. I answered with the same passion and determination that had always defined me. Why do you want to study at Coimbra? The program director asked. Because I want to become an internationally excellent jurist, I replied. I want to understand different legal traditions, expand my worldview, and bring that knowledge back to contribute to the development of the American legal system. And how do you plan to support yourself financially in Portugal? The program only covers airfare and student housing. ELL work, professor. Just like I work to fund my education. I am willing to make whatever sacrifices are necessary to take advantage of this opportunity. 2 weeks later, the results came out. Emily Parker was one of the 2 students selected to study a semester at the University of Coimbra. When I got the news, I cried tears of pure joy. It was more than just an academic achievement, it was proof that a poor girl from the rough side of Chicago could compete and succeed at any level. It was confirmation that my determination was taking me to places I had never even dreamed were possible. The semester in Coimbra was life-changing. Studying at one of the oldest universities in the world, surrounded by students from dozens of countries, learning from professors with international reputations, it expanded my worldview in ways I didn't even begin to measure. But more important than the academic knowledge was the confidence that experience gave me. I realized I could adapt to any environment, that my intellectual capacity was recognized anywhere, that there were no limits to how far I could go. I returned from the exchange program early 2017, in my 4th year of law school, carrying a wealth of experiences that few American students my age had. I spoke fluent English, had deep knowledge of comparative law, an international network of contacts, and most importantly unshakable confidence in my own abilities. It was time to start thinking about the next step. What kind of lawyer I wanted to become, and how I would use my education to fulfill the promise I made to myself years ago. 2018 arrived with the looming reality of graduation and the need to define my career path. I was in my 5th and final year of law school with a flawless academic record, a 394 GPA, international experience, published research, an internship at a top law firm, and a network of professors, attorneys, and influential legal professionals. But I didn't want to be just another newly minted lawyer. I wanted to make an impact. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted my story to inspire others who had faced the same struggles I did. And, yes, I admit I wanted my family, especially my mother, to see just how far I had come. While in Coimbra, an idea had taken root in my mind I urged to let go, starting my own law firm focused on human rights and social justice. A firm that offered free legal services to low-income clients, while also providing consulting to businesses and non-profits. A sustainable business model that would allow me to do good while building a strong career. I discussed the idea with Dr. Robert Matthews, who had become my unofficial mentor over the years of my internship. Emily, it is an interesting vision, he said one afternoon as we reviewed a brief I had drafted. But starting your own firm right after graduation is risky. Why not spend a few years at an established firm, build experience, save some money, then pursue entrepreneurship? It was solid advice, but I was impatient. I wanted to start making a difference now. I wanted to prove that a girl from the south side of Chicago could not only become a lawyer but could change the way law was practiced. Dr. Matthews, with all due respect, I've never done things the conventional way. I've always had to create my own opportunities rather than wait for them. I think it is time to keep following my instincts. He smiled. That determination is exactly what makes you special, Emily. If that is what you want, I'll support you however I can. And so, during my final semester of law school, I started working on my firm as a business plan. I studied business models, law firm regulations, legal marketing strategies, and financial management. At the same time, I was preparing for the bar exam, which I would take right after graduation. My final thesis was titled Pro Bono Law as a Tool for Access to Justice, a Sustainable Model for American Law Firms. It was a project that combined my academic experience with my entrepreneurial ambitions. My advisor, Professor Fernando Costa, was genuinely impressed by the depth and originality of my work. Emily, this is one of the best theses I've ever supervised, he told me during the defense. You demonstrate not only strong theoretical knowledge but also a practical, innovative proposal that could genuinely transform the practice. of law e desastre. The review panel awarded me the highest possible score. Another confirmation that I was on the right path. Graduation was scheduled for December 2018, a moment I had dreamed of for 5 years, ever since I first stepped onto the University of Illinois campus. It was the crowning achievement of a journey that began with a girl rejected by her own family and ended with a young lawyer ready to conquer the world. But there was one detail that made this moment even more special. The graduation ceremony would be broadcast live on local public television and covered by Chicago's major newspapers. I had been selected as the class valedictorian. Being the valedictorian was an honor reserved for the student with the highest GPA. I had finished the program with a GPA of 3.942, the highest in the class. It was a public recognition of my academic excellence, but more important than the personal honor was the opportunity to speak to hundreds of people about resilience, determination, and social justice. It was my chance to share my story, to inspire other young people from backgrounds like mine. Yes, to show my family in the entire city of Chicago exactly who Emily Parker had become. I spent weeks preparing my speech. I wanted it to be memorable, inspiring, but also thoughtfully relevant to my fellow graduates. I rehearsed each dozens of times, timed every word, adjusted every pause for maximum impact. The theme of the speech was law as a tool for social transformation, challenges and opportunities for the next generation of American lawyers. It was a subject that perfectly combined my personal experience with my professional vision. The ceremony was set for December 15, 2018, at 7 p.m. at the Chicago Theater, the city's most iconic and prestigious venue. A historic, elegant place that hosted the most important events in Chicago. In the days leading up to graduation, I decided to do something I hadn't done in years: invite my family to the ceremony. Not just because it was customary, but because I wanted them to see where I had arrived. I wanted my mother, who had excluded me from the family photo 8 years earlier, to witness her mistake being applauded as the top student of one of the most prestigious law classes in the state. Do you guys want to come to my graduation? I asked during dinner one Thursday evening. Silence. Everyone stopped eating and stared at me, surprised. It was rare for me to involve my family in anything related to my academic or professional life. Graduation, my mom asked, as if it were something surreal. When? Saturday, December 15th, at 7 p.m. at the Chicago Theater. The Chicago Theater? Ashley's eyes widened. Seriously? That's where they hold major events in the city. That's right. I am the class valedictorian. Valedictorian? My dad asked, showing genuine interest for the first time. What does that mean? It means I was the top student in the class. The person with the highest GPA gives the graduation speech. Ethan now in his second year of civil engineering, inspired by my example, was the first to react positively. Wow, Emily, that's amazing. Of course I'm coming. Grandma Margaret, who was having dinner with us that night, smiled with tears in her eyes. My sweet girl, I always knew you were special. My mom stayed silent for a few seconds, processing the information. For the first time in decades, I saw something in her eyes that looked like pride. But it was pride mixed with discomfort. As if she didn't take it to know how to handle the success of the daughter she had spent so many years rejecting. Of course we'll be there, she finally said. Our daughter is graduating. Our daughter. After years of treating me like a mistake, now I was our daughter because I was about to graduate as the top student in my class. In the days that followed, the entire family dynamic shifted. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know the details about the ceremony, my career plans, my future. Neighbors who barely used to say hello started stopping me on the street to congratulate me. The news that the Parker had become the top law student at the University of Illinois spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. Emily, are you going to be on transmissão vertical? Asked Mrs. Thompson, our longtime neighbor, as I walked home from work. The ceremony is being broadcast on public television, so, yeah, my goodness. Can you believe it? Our little neighbor on transmissão vertical. It was surreal being treated like a local celebrity after years of being invisible to these same people. But it was also deeply rewarding to see that my story was inspiring other young people in the neighborhood. Several mothers started approaching me, asking for advice on how to encourage their kids to study. Graduation week arrived fast. It was December, the end of the year, a time for reflection and closure. I was 22 years old, about to graduate with a law degree from the University of Illinois. My resume included international experience, published academic research, an internship at a prestigious law firm, and the honor of graduating as the top student in my class. But more important than the academic achievements was the personal transformation. The insecure, rejected girl from 8 years ago had become a confident, determined young woman ready to take on the world. I had broken the cycle of poverty, a limitation that had trapped my family for generations. I had proven that your beginnings do not define your future. On Friday, the day before graduation, I went to the salon to get my hair and nails done. A rare luxury for me, but for the most important day of my life, I wanted to look impeccable. You look stunning, Carla, the hairstylist you had done my hair for years, said as she finished. Nervous for tomorrow, nervous and excited at the same time. This is the day Evie dreamed about for years. In the speech, ready and memorized. I am going to talk about using law to transform society. That is beautiful. You hear an inspiration to all of us, Eddie. Hearing that kind of feedback was humbling and empowering. Knowing my journey was inspiring others gave me even more strength to keep moving forward. On Saturday, the day of the ceremony, I woke up at 6 a.m. Too anxious to sleep any longer. I took a long, relaxing shower, made myself a big breakfast. I spent 2 hours rehearsing my speech one last time. By 2 p.m., I started getting ready. A sleek black dress, mid-height heels, soft but flawless makeup, in my hair a sophisticated bun. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a confident young professional, ready to take on the world. My family was also getting dressed for the occasion. It was rare to see them so polished and excited for an event. My mother had bought a new dress. My father was wearing a suit, something they rarely seen. Ethan looked sharp in a dress shirt and tie. Even Ashley, now 26 and working as a store supervisor, had put in extra effort to look her best. You look beautiful, Emily, Grandma Margaret said when she saw me. Your grandma is so proud of you. We left for the Chicago Theater at 5 p.m. Downtown traffic was crazy because of the event, but we arrived an hour early. The theater was bustling, families arriving dressed to the nines, professional photographers capturing every moment, an atmosphere thick with excitement and pride. When my family walked into the theater, their jaws practically dropped. The Chicago Theater was stunning, its classical architecture, luxurious decor, and space for over 800 guests. It was unlike any place they had ever been. Wow, Emily, Ethan whispered as we looked for our seats. This place is incredible. It really is, I agreed, feeling a deep sense of pride to be the reason we were all there. Graduates had reserved seats in the front rows. As I made my way there, dozens of classmates stopped to wish me luck on the speech. It felt amazing to know how much respect and admiration I had earned from my peers. At exactly 7 p.m., the ceremony began. The university's president, Dr. Alan Bradley, opened with a formal welcome. Then the dean of the College of Law gave a speech about the importance of the legal profession and the challenges ahead. Then came the remarks from the faculty sponsors and the presentation of degrees. It was emotional watching each classmate walk across the stage, receive their diploma, and be cheered on by family and friends. When it was my turn, I heard loud cheers, Emily, Emily, coming from my family and the audience. I received my diploma from the university president with an indescribable sense of pride. This was the physical proof that I had achieved what once seemed impossible. I was officially a law school graduate with top honors. But the most important moment was este ter come. After all the diplomas were handed out, it was time for the valedictory address. I was introduced with a short biography highlighting my academic journey and my exceptional achievements. We now invite Emily Parker, top graduate of the class of 2018, to deliver the valedictory address. I walked to the podium with my heart pounding, but my confidence rock solid. I had prepared for this moment for weeks. I knew exactly what I wanted to say and exactly how I wanted to say it. I looked out into the audience, over 800 people, staring back at me, cameras recording every second. It was the most exposed I had ever been, but I felt no fear, only power. President Bradley, Dean Matthews, esteemed faculty, family, friends, fellow graduates, good evening. My voice rang out strong and clear through the theater. I paused, looked directly toward where my family was sitting, and began. 8 years ago, a 14-year-old girl was told to step out of her family photo on Christmas. Her own mother said she was a mistake, someone she had to carry every day of her life. That night, that girl made herself a promise that one day, her face would be seen everywhere in the city. The silence in the theater was absolute. You could hear every breath. I continued, that girl is me. And tonight, 8 years later, not only is my face being broadcast across the entire state of Illinois, but I stand here as living proof that where you come from does not define where you can go. I could see tears welling in the eyes of people throughout the audience. My voice remained steady. Law is not just a career. It is a tool for social transformation. It is a way to give voice to those who have none, to defend those who cannot defend themselves, to build a society that is more just, more equal, and more human. For 15 minutes, I spoke about social justice, about the responsibility of lawyers in society, about the duty of our generation to use the law as a force for good. But the most powerful moment came when I brought it back to my personal story. Every one of us has traveled a unique path to the stage. Some had every advantage. Others like me faced obstacles that seemed impossible. But we are all it today because we believe that knowledge and determination can change reality. I ended my speech looking directly at my family. To those who doubted me, who diminished me, who rejected me, thank you. You gave me the strength I needed to get it. And to anyone who still believes that people like us can to dream big, I am the proof that you are wrong. The theater erupted in applause, a standing ovation that lasted nearly 5 full minutes. I saw people crying. I saw classmates applauding with tears in their eyes. I saw professors nodding in approval, deeply moved. But what hit me the hardest was seeing my family. My mom was crying out of pride, emotion, maybe even regret. My dad was clapping so hard, with a smile on his face that I had never seen before. Ethan was shouting, Terese, my sister. And Grandma Margaret was absolutely glowing with pride. As I stepped down from the podium, I was immediately surrounded by people, professors, classmates, families of other graduates, all wanting to shake my hand, to congratulate me. It was a surreal wave of recognition and admiration. Emily, that was an incredible speech, said Professor Fernando Costa. You moved everyone in this theater. It came from the heart, Professor. It was a story that needed to be told. After the official ceremony, there was a reception in the theater foyer, an elegant event with hors d'oeuvres, champagne, and classical music. My family was clearly out of their comfort zone but also visibly proud to be there. During the reception, dozens of people approached me. Well-known attorneys wanted to meet me. Professors congratulated me. Journalists asked for interviews. But the most meaningful conversation of all was the one with my mom. Emily, she said as she walked up to me, her eyes still red from crying. I need to apologize. It was the time in my entire life that my mother had ever apologized for anything. I was wrong, so wrong. You are not a mistake. You are extraordinary. I am sorry, I am so sorry that I didn't see it sooner. I hugged my mother for the first time in years. It was a moment of reconciliation, a moment I had dreamed of, but one that also came too late to erase the years of rejection. It hurt. Mo, I forgive you, but I want you to understand. I got it despite everything, not because of it. I know, sweetheart. That makes you even more remarkable. In the days that followed graduation, my life completely transformed. The video of my speech went viral on social media. Within a week, it had been viewed by more than 2 million people, shared tens of thousands of times. It had generated thousands of comments from people who saw themselves in my story. Local and national newspapers ran features about my journey. I was invited to give talks at schools, community centers, and legal conferences.